Most people think being alone is a weakness. They fear it, they run from it. But let me tell you something, if you are a woman with no friends, you are not weak. You are powerful beyond measure. You are standing in a space very few can handle, and if you stay the course, the life you build will be stronger than anything built on shallow connections. The empty room. There comes a moment when the room falls silent. No messages, no invitations, no endless chatter, just you. And that moment feels heavier than anything you've ever carried. The walls seem to close in a little tighter. The air feels thicker. You check your phone out of habit, nothing. You check again 5 minutes later, still nothing. And deep down, it hits you. You've been forgotten. Everyone else seems to be moving on, rushing toward their dreams, living their lives, while you sit there, stuck. It's easy to start believing that something is wrong with you, like you're somehow broken or behind. Your mind, desperate for answers, begins weaving painful stories, ugly ones that tell you you're not enough, that you failed, that you're invisible. In the empty room, those stories get louder. The silence becomes a mirror, showing you every insecurity, every fear you've been trying to outrun. And in that moment, it's tempting to give in, to believe the worst about yourself, to collapse under the weight of your own doubts. But listen carefully, that silence you fear so much isn't your enemy. It's a gift most people never receive, or worse, they receive it but are too afraid to open it. That empty room is a blank canvas, untouched and full of potential. When nobody is there to tell you who you are supposed to be, when there are no opinions flooding your mind, when the noise dies down, that's when something rare happens. For the first time in a long time, maybe for the first time ever, you hold the brush. You become the artist of your own future. Every color you choose, every stroke you make, every risk you take, it's all yours. No expectations to meet, no performance to put on, no audience to impress. Just you, your dreams, your choices. This is where real power is born, not in the applause of a crowd, but in the courage it takes to create when nobody is clapping. Most people never sit still long enough to experience this. They panic at the first sign of silence. They reach for their phones, flood their minds with distractions, chase any form of validation to fill the uncomfortable space. But running from the empty room is running from yourself. And you can't build anything real if you're always running. You have to stand there in the uncomfortable stillness and face everything you've been avoiding. You have to meet yourself raw, unfiltered, vulnerable. That's where the transformation happens. That's where the strongest people are made. Not in the spotlight, but in the shadows. Not when they're surrounded by fans, but when they're surrounded by doubt and still choose to believe anyway. Because if you can thrive in the empty room, if you can build strength when no one is watching, if you can love yourself when no one is applauding, if you can keep moving when no one is cheering you on, then you'll be unstoppable when the world finally turns its eyes back toward you. The truth is, most people are only as good as the attention they receive. But when you've been forged in silence, when your worth has been built brick by brick in solitude, you don't just survive. When the crowd disappears, you thrive. You no longer chase validation. You embody it. You no longer beg for a seat at the table. You build your own. You no longer fear being alone. You welcome it because you know the empty room isn't empty at all, it's full of possibility. Yes, the empty room feels lonely at first. It feels like punishment. It feels unfair. But stay a little longer. Sit in the discomfort. Feel the weight of it without trying to escape. Because beyond that first wave of fear, something extraordinary waits for you. A version of yourself that is stronger, wiser, more powerful than you ever imagined. A self that no longer depends on noise to feel alive. A self that no longer crumbles when attention fades. A self that builds, creates, rises regardless of who's watching. So the next time you find yourself in that silence, when the invitations stop, when the messages dry up, when the noise falls away, don't rush to fill it. Don't run. Don't numb. Stay. Stay long enough to hear your own heartbeat again. Stay long enough to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. Stay long enough to pick up the brush and start painting your masterpiece stroke by stroke, mistake by mistake, truth by truth. Because the empty room isn't where you lose yourself. It's where you finally find yourself. And when you understand that, you'll realize you were never abandoned. You were being prepared. The noise they run to. Most people are terrified of silence because they are terrified of themselves. They'll do anything to avoid it. They drown their days in noise, gossip about people who don't even matter, endless parties that blur together, distractions that eat away at their time like termites. They chase loudness, thinking that if the world around them stays busy enough, maybe, just maybe, they won't have to hear the questions they're too scared to answer. They run to chaos like it's a safe house, but deep down, they know it's just a shield. Because silence strips away the armor. It exposes the truth. And for most, the truth is too heavy to carry alone. When you have no friends, no plans, no fake smiles to hide behind, you are forced to confront what's real. You are faced with the one person you can't lie to yourself. Not the polished version you present to the world. Not the watered-down version you mold to fit in. But the raw, untouched, stubbornly honest version of you. The version that knows what you truly want. The version that remembers the dreams you abandoned to be accepted. The version that aches for meaning while your outer world chases approval. And it's not comfortable. It's messy. It's ugly. It's terrifying. But it's also where everything real begins. The noise they run to is a drug. A way to stay numb. A way to delay the moment of reckoning. Because sitting with yourself in silence demands answers. Who are you without the likes, the texts, the invitations? What do you stand for when no one is there to clap for you? What do you truly believe when you're not trying to belong? Most can't handle the weight of those questions. They'd rather stay busy than stay real. They'd rather fill the air with meaningless chatter than fill their soul with uncomfortable truths. But if you're brave enough, you'll see the opportunity hidden in the silence. You'll see that every quiet moment is a chance to rebuild, to reshape, to rise. When the noise fades, when the masks drop, when the fake crowds disappear, you have a choice. You can either panic and rush back into the circus, or you can stay. Stay with the discomfort. Stay with the emptiness. Stay with the questions. Because staying means facing everything you've been avoiding, and facing it means finally breaking free. You'll realize that most friendships you thought you needed were never about connection, they were about distraction. Most parties you thought you enjoyed were never about joy, they were about escaping yourself. Most conversations you clung to were never about growth, they were about staying busy enough to avoid hearing your own doubts. Once you see through the noise, you can never unsee it. You'll start craving silence the way others crave attention. You'll start valuing depth over distraction, purpose over popularity, solitude over superficial validation. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop needing the noise, you become the one people are drawn to. Because realness is rare. Authenticity is magnetic. While they run in circles trying to find themselves through others, you'll already be standing there rooted, grounded, unshakable. You'll stop bending to stay invited. You'll stop shrinking to stay accepted. You'll stop editing yourself just to avoid the loneliness. You'll become someone who doesn't just survive the silence, you'll master it. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more people who can walk into a crowded room and stay centered. It needs more people who can sit alone with their thoughts and not crumble. It needs more people who are comfortable being seen as different, misunderstood, even forgotten because they know who they are beyond the masks. Silence isn't your enemy. Loneliness isn't your punishment. They're your teachers. They strip away the unnecessary. They tear down the illusions. They bring you face to face with the only person who can change your life, you. And when you finally sit with yourself, no distractions, no filters, no noise, you realize the thing you were running from all along was never the silence. It was your own greatness waiting to be unleashed. The mirror of isolation. Isolation is not punishment. It is a mirror, and it's one of the most honest mirrors you will ever face. It strips away the noise, the distractions, the applause, the comforting nods of approval from others. It leaves you standing bare with no stage, no spotlight, no audience to feed off. It is just you, your thoughts, your fears, your dreams, your doubts. Isolation shows you exactly who you are when nobody is watching, when there's no one to impress, no one to applaud your efforts, no one to validate your existence. It holds up a reflection of the self you can no longer hide from. And in that reflection, you will see everything, the strength you forgot you had, the fears you never truly conquered, the insecurities you buried deep, the dreams you once believed were impossible. Isolation doesn't sugarcoat anything. It doesn't flatter you. It doesn't make excuses for you. It just shows you what's real. And that's exactly where transformation begins. Growth never happens in the crowd. Growth never happens when you're constantly surrounded by approval and applause. In fact, the crowd often delays growth because it gives you just enough comfort to stay the same. True transformation happens in the wilderness, in the silence, in the stillness, in the places where nobody else dares to go. It happens when you are forced to sit with your own demons, your own weaknesses, your own unfulfilled potential, when there is no one left to blame, when there are no distractions left to hide behind, when the excuses you used to lean on sound hollow, even to your own ears. That's when you are faced with the raw truth of who you are and who you could become. Most people fear isolation because they fear what they'll see in that mirror. They fear discovering that they're not as strong as they pretended to be, that they've been living someone else's version of success, that their confidence was borrowed from the opinions of others. But if you can stay with the discomfort, if you can resist the urge to numb it, run from it, drown it out, you'll find something priceless. You'll find the seeds of real strength, real clarity, real purpose. You'll find the pieces of yourself that were buried under layers of expectation and noise. You'll realize that everything you ever needed was never out there in the crowd. It was always locked inside you, waiting for the silence to set it free. Isolation is not a curse. It's a calling. It's the universe pulling you aside, away from the noise, away from the distractions, to have a brutally honest conversation with your soul. It's asking you, who are you when no one's watching? What do you believe in when there's no one to cheer for you? What do you stand for when standing alone is the only option? These aren't comfortable questions. They're not easy answers, but they are the foundation of real power. Because when you emerge from isolation, when you've wrestled with your fears, when you've faced your doubts, when you've stared into that mirror and didn't flinch, you come back stronger. Not fake strong, not look at me strong, silent strong, unshakable strong, the kind of strength that doesn't need to be seen to be real, the kind that can stand alone without apology, the kind that doesn't collapse the moment applause fades. So next time life pulls you into isolation, into the quiet, into the stillness, into the parts of yourself that you've been avoiding, don't see it as punishment. See it as preparation. See it as a sacred space where your real self can finally surface. See it as the furnace where your future is forged. Because the strongest, most unstoppable versions of ourselves aren't born when we're surrounded by crowds. They're born when we stand alone in the wilderness and choose to keep walking anyway, building unshakable strength. Without friends to rely on, without a cheering section to lift you up when you stumble, something incredible happens. You are forced to become your own savior. At first it feels cruel, it feels like abandonment, it feels like the universe has forgotten you. But hidden underneath that loneliness is a gift most people will never receive. You become the one who picks yourself up when you fall. You become the shoulder you cry on, the hand that pulls you back to your feet, the voice that whispers, keep going, even when nobody else can hear it. You become your own fire in the freezing darkness, your own anchor in the storm, your own light when everything around you turns dim. In the absence of a crowd, you learn to be self-contained. You stop depending on borrowed strength. You stop outsourcing your worth to people who could never truly understand your battles. You learn what it means to stand firm on your own 2 feet, to trust your own instincts, to respect your own journey without needing an audience. The silence teaches you things that applause never could. It forces you to meet yourself at your weakest and love yourself anyway. It forces you to keep moving forward, even when no one is watching, even when no one is clapping, even when no one is offering a hand. And in that brutal, beautiful process, you build a kind of self-respect that no one can take away from you. You stop bending for acceptance. You stop shrinking for approval. You stop waiting for permission to be proud of who you are. Self-driven, self-sustained, self-respecting. That's what you become when the world falls silent. You realize that validation, that desperate hunger for someone to tell you that you're good enough was always a trap. It was always an illusion. Your worth was never supposed to be a group project. It was never meant to be something fragile enough to be handed to you, only to be taken away the moment someone changed their mind. It was never supposed to be voted on by a crowd that doesn't even know who you truly are. Your worth was set the day you were born. It was written into you, unbreakable, undeniable, untouched by the opinions of others. Most people spend their lives trying to patch up their insecurities with outside approval. They chase likes, praise, and shallow friendships, hoping the noise will fill the void inside, but it never does. Because real strength, real confidence, real peace, it can't be given to you. It has to be built from within. It has to be earned in the lonely hours, in the private battles, in the moments when quitting would be easy, but you choose not to. You choose to fight for yourself, not because anyone's watching, not because anyone's rewarding you, but because you finally decided that you are worth fighting for. And when that shift happens, when you no longer need anyone's permission to feel proud, when you no longer seek applause to feel alive, when you no longer crave the nods and smiles and handshakes, you become unstoppable. You walk into rooms differently. You make decisions differently. You move through life with a quiet power that can't be faked and can't be shaken. People will feel it. They won't always understand it, but they'll feel it. Because strength built in solitude leaves a mark that the world can't ignore. So if you find yourself alone, building yourself back up from nothing, don't resent it. Embrace it, lean into it. Because while others are busy chasing approval, you're busy building something they can never take away: unshakable strength. And one day, when the noise returns, when the crowd gathers again, when the invitations start rolling back in, you won't need any of it to stand tall. You'll already know who you are. And that kind of strength, that's forever. Choosing depth over company. Many women surround themselves with dozens of friends, weaving social circles so wide and busy that from the outside, it looks like they are deeply loved, fully supported, and endlessly connected. But appearances lie. Because when real storms come, when life cracks open with loss, betrayal, heartbreak, or failure, they find themselves utterly alone. Those dozens of friends are nowhere to be found. The phone that once buzzed with endless messages falls silent. The invitations dry up. The smiles fade. And what remains is the hollow echo of relationships built on convenience, not commitment. Shallow friendships feel good in the warmth of easy seasons. They give the illusion of belonging, of being seen, of being valued. But seasons change. And when winter comes, when life demands something real, something enduring, shallow roots cannot weather the storm. True companionship is different. True connection is rare. It doesn't come from desperation, from trying to fill the empty spaces inside with noise and attention. It comes from fullness, from wholeness. From a place so rooted in self-respect, so anchored in self-worth, that you no longer cling to people out of fear of being alone. When you are full within yourself, when you have built a life, a mindset, and a heart that doesn't collapse when left standing alone, you start to attract differently. You stop drawing in those who are only looking to take. You stop entertaining those who only come to drain your energy. You start radiating a different kind of strength, a quiet power that repels the shallow and invites the real. You begin to meet people who see you, truly see you, not as an accessory to their life, not as a convenience or a stepping stone, but as a warrior standing on her own ground. They see the battles you've fought, the storms you've survived, the scars you wear without apology. And they don't flinch, they don't run, they don't diminish you to make themselves more comfortable. They recognize your strength because they have walked their own fires too. They know what it costs to stand unbroken. They know how rare realness is in a world obsessed with appearances. Choosing depth over company is not about rejecting people. It's about rejecting anything that threatens to make you small again. It's about refusing to settle for half-hearted friendships, performative connections, and empty conversations that leave your soul starving. It's about realizing that your time, your energy, your spirit are sacred, and not everyone deserves access to them. It's about honoring yourself enough to wait for the kind of friendships, the kind of relationships that don't require you to water yourself down just to be loved. And yes, the road to depth is lonelier at first. You will have seasons where you walk mostly alone. You will have nights when you wonder if real connection is even possible in a world that praises the shallow. But stay the course. Trust the process. Because what you're building, the depth you're carving into your life, will one day become the very thing that draws in souls who match your spirit. Souls who don't want to use you. Souls who don't want to fix you. Souls who simply want to walk beside you as equals, as warriors, as reflections of the same fire. The truth is, it's better to walk alone than to dance with people who don't even see the real you. Better to build a life that feels rich and whole in solitude than to waste your energy propping up relationships that would collapse the moment life gets hard. Choosing depth over company isn't about isolation. It's about elevation. It's about rising into a version of yourself so true, so powerful, so full that the right people can't help but find you. And when they do, you won't need to cling. You won't need to chase. You won't need to prove your worth. They'll see it, because it was never hidden. It was simply waiting for someone strong enough to recognize it, facing the temptation to settle. There will be days when loneliness feels like a heavy cloak you can't shrug off. Days when it clings to your skin, seeps into your bones, and makes every hour feel longer, colder, heavier. There will be nights when the silence around you feels too loud to bear, when the emptiness in the room echoes every doubt you've ever tried to bury. In those moments, it becomes tempting to reach for anything, anyone, just to feel less alone. You will want to lower your standards, to make compromises you swore you'd never make, to invite people into your life who don't deserve to sit at your table. You will tell yourself that something is better than nothing, that a warm body, even if it brings a cold spirit, is better than the ache of solitude. But resist. Fight that impulse with everything you have. Because loneliness is temporary, settling is forever. Accepting less than you deserve just to quiet the discomfort of the moment will cost you more than you realize. It will chip away at your spirit piece by piece. It will erode your self-respect in silent ways, in small concessions that seem harmless at first, but over time leave you wondering how you became a stranger to yourself. Settling for shallow connections might soothe the surface-level sting of loneliness, but it deepens a much greater wound, the wound of betraying your own soul. Every time you accept less than your heart knows it deserves, you teach yourself that your needs, your values, your dreams are negotiable. And once you start negotiating your worth, it becomes harder and harder to reclaim it. Loneliness, no matter how painful, is a season. It comes and goes like weather. But building a life with people who don't truly see you, who don't truly value you, who drain your energy and dull your light, that's a trap with consequences that linger. It's far easier to endure a lonely night than to untangle yourself from a life stitched together with compromises you never wanted to make. The pain of temporary loneliness is a test, a proving ground. It asks you, will you hold the line? Will you stay true to what you know you deserve, even when it hurts? Will you trust that something better is coming, even when everything inside you is screaming to settle for what's easy? Keep your standards high, not out of pride, not out of stubbornness, but out of a deep, unshakable respect for the life you are building. Keep your spirit intact, protect it like the priceless thing it is. Because you are not here to collect people like trophies to fill an empty shelf. You are not here to stuff your life with hollow company just to silence your fears. You are here to build something real, something lasting, something that resonates with your soul on a level that cannot be faked, cannot be rushed, cannot be forced. Real connection takes time. Real companionship requires patience. It demands that you walk through the wilderness of solitude without folding, without losing yourself along the way. It asks you to believe stubbornly, fiercely, that you are worthy of the kind of love, the kind of friendships, the kind of life that don't require you to shrink or settle. So when the temptation to settle comes knocking, and it will meet it with strength, meet it with the memory of every time you compromised and regretted it. Meet it with the vision of the life you are building, the life that's still ahead of you, waiting for you to refuse anything less. Let loneliness sharpen you, not soften you. Let it clarify what you want, not confuse it. Because the person who holds the line in the lonely seasons is the person who gets to live a life overflowing with meaning later. A life where every relationship is built on truth, not fear. Where every connection is a reflection of the respect you first gave yourself. And that life, the one you're holding out for, is worth every lonely night it takes to build it. The transformation you can't fake. You can't fake self-respect. You can't fake inner peace. You can't fake strength. No matter how carefully someone tries to craft an image, no matter how polished their words or curated their life, looks from the outside, real recognizes real. Either you've walked through the fire or you haven't. Either you've sat alone with your fears, looked them dead in the eye, and decided you would not be broken, or you've buried them under noise, distractions, and cheap applause. There's no shortcut, no hack, no pretending your way into it. The kind of transformation that makes people stop and feel your presence before you even say a word. It only comes from the battles you fight when no one else is watching. This loneliness you feel, this ache in your chest, this silence that sometimes feels like it could swallow you whole, it's not a punishment. It's a sacred forge. A place where the false parts of you are burned away and what's real is strengthened. Every day you stand in it and refuse to bow, refuse to run back to the familiar, refuse to settle for shallow, refuse to numb yourself with noise. You are reforging yourself into something rare, something powerful, something undeniable. You are becoming the kind of person who doesn't just survive storms, you become the storm. You become a force that cannot be ignored because your strength was not borrowed. It was built, hammered into existence by every lonely night, every tear you wiped alone, every dream you kept alive, even when no one else believed in it. Most people will never understand what that kind of transformation costs. They will see the confidence, the peace, the silent power you carry, and they'll assume it was always there. They won't see the nights you fought battles in your mind. They won't see the moments you almost gave up but chose not to. They won't see the hours spent wrestling with doubt, fear, and the crushing weight of wondering if it was all worth it. But you'll know exactly what it took, and that knowing, that deep, unshakable knowing, will be the foundation of a life that no one can take from you.
Our planet is a treasure
trove of natural
wonders.
The fire you're standing in now is not designed to destroy you.
Hidden amongst bustling cities and sprawling landscapes are pockets of serenity.
To strip away the layers of fear,
these secret havens
and
offer
falsehood
respite
that were never truly you to begin
They invite us to reconnect with the Earth's tranquil embrace. These hidden paradises are scattered across the globe. Each one holds a unique charm waiting to be discovered. Join us as we journey to some of nature's best kept secrets. Prepare to be captivated by their beauty and find solace in their tranquility. The Scottish Highlands stand as a testament to nature's raw beauty. Rugged mountains pierce the sky, their slopes painted in vibrant greens and browns. Crystal clear locks reflect the ever-changing sky, their depths
stay in the forest,
secrets untold.
Stand in the fire.
The air is alive with the sound of the
because
wind
every second you endure, every moment you choose not to collapse, every day you refuse to settle, you are becoming someone unstoppable,
a walk through the
someone unforgettable, someone who doesn't just inspire others, you awaken something inside them
the Emerald Isle truly lives up to its
and one day, not by
rolling
accident,
green hills
not
stretch
by
as
luck,
far as the
but
eye
by
can
the
see,
quiet,
dotted
brutal,
with sheep
beautiful
and
work
ancient stone
you did
walls.
alone. You will look at your life and realize you didn't just survive your loneliness.
Damp earth.
You transformed
along the
because of
rugged
it.
coastline.
The invisible growth.
Cliffs plunge
the most
into
important
the
changes
waves.
happen in silence.
Hidden coves
They happen when nobody is watching.
Beaches,
nobody claps for the woman reading late into the night, sacrificing
Ireland's
sleep to expand her mind, while the rest of the world numbs itself with distractions. Nobody hands out awards to the woman who chooses discipline over comfort, who turns down fleeting pleasures to invest in something lasting. Nobody applauds the woman who quietly rewrites the script running through her mind, teaching herself to think clearer, to believe stronger, to unlearn the fears and doubts that once ruled her life. There are no standing ovations for healing your own wounds without turning your pain into a performance. There are no medals for the ones who sit alone in the quiet, face their shadows head on, and choose to become better instead of bitter. Nobody sees the woman who wakes up at 5 a.m. before the sun even rises to meditate, to pray,
the Amazon rainforest.
Before
the Amazon rainforest, often referred to as the lungs of the earth, is a vast and mysterious expanse that stretches across 9 countries in South America. It is a place where the modern world feels like
the tiny daily choices she makes,
and nature
to speak
reigns
kindly to herself
supreme.
instead of harshly.
The Amazon rainforest is a vibrant tapestry of life teeming with biodiversity. It is home to an estimated 390 billion individual trees representing around 16,000 species. Because what's built in silence becomes unshakable in noise. The woman who grows in the unseen hours becomes the woman who cannot be moved when life tests her. She doesn't crumble at criticism because she no longer needs the world's approval to validate her existence. She doesn't lose herself in chaos because she has already anchored herself in discipline. She doesn't chase after hollow relationships or empty distractions because she knows the richness that comes from standing whole and strong on her own. She has fought too many with many
battles
species spending their entire lives high above the forest floor.
Most people won't
the air
understand
is
how she
thick
got
with humidity,
They'll assume
alive
she was
with the
just
sound
lucky,
of exotic
that
birds
confidence
and buzzing
came naturally
insects.
to her, that her
The
peace
Amazon
was
is
handed
home
to
to
her.
over 1,300
They won't see the countless
species of
mornings she
birds,
wanted to quit
each
but
adding
didn't.
its unique song
The
to
nights
the
she
symphony of the
cried but
jungle.
got back up.
Insects,
The moment
too,
she
are
doubted
abundant
everything
with an
but chose to
estimated
believe
2.5
anyway.
million species
The world
calling
doesn't
the rainforest
celebrate
home.
invisible
This
growth, but it
cacophony of
always
life
reveals
is a
it.
testament to
Over
the
time,
incredible
the woman who trained in
biodiversity
silence
of the
begins to
Amazon.
move differently,
The Amazon River,
speak
a
differently,
lifeline for
carry
countless
herself
species,
differently,
winds its
and
way
people
through the
notice
heart
even
of the
if they can't
rainforest.
explain why.
Stretching over
Those
4,000
silent
miles, it is the
victories are
second
what
longest
separate you
river
from the
in the
rest.
world and
They
carries more
forge a
water
strength
than
that
any
doesn't
other
need to
river.
be announced.
The river and
Peace
its many
that doesn't need to
tributaries
be
are vital
explained.
to the ecosystem,
A power that doesn't
providing
demand
water,
recognition to
transportation, and
exist.
habitat for a
When you
myriad
build
of
yourself
species.
quietly,
Indigenous
humbly,
communities
faithfully,
live
you
in
create a
harmony with
foundation
nature,
that cannot
their
be
traditions
shaken by
intricately
opinions,
woven into the
rejection,
fabric of the
failure, or
forest.
loss. So when your growth feels unseen, when your progress feels invisible, when your efforts feel like they're going unnoticed, remember, the work you do in the dark is what prepares you to shine in the light. The invisible growth isn't wasted. It's sacred. It's setting you apart. It's building something inside you that noise could never create. And one day, without trying, without forcing, without needing to announce it, you'll walk into rooms with a presence so undeniable that even the loudest voices will fall silent. Because real growth doesn't have to shout. It simply speaks for itself. Being too big for small minds, some will not understand you. No matter how clearly you move, how deeply you feel, or how purely you live, they won't get it.
Scattered like
Some will
jewels
say
across
you're
the Indian
too
Ocean,
cold,
the
too
Maldives
distant,
are the
too
epitome
serious.
of paradise.
They'll whisper that you've changed,
Palm-fringed
that you're
islands
different now,
rise from
but you're
crystal
not
clear
as
turquoise
fun as you
waters.
used to be.
Their white
Let
sand
them.
beaches
Their
beckoning
judgment is
visitors
not
to
your
relax
business.
and unwind.
Their misunderstanding
Beneath
is
the
not your
surface, vibrant coral
responsibility.
reefs teem with
You were never
marine
meant
life,
to fit into
offering a
small frames
kaleidoscope
built
of
by
colours
small
for
minds.
snorkelers and divers
You were
to
never meant to
explore.
water yourself
The gentle
down so
lapping of the
others could
waves
feel
provides a
comfortable in their
soothing
mediocrity.
soundtrack,
You are
inviting
here to live a
visitors to let
life
go
that
of their
makes sense
worries
to your
and
soul,
embrace the
not one
tranquility
that
of
checks
island
off the
life.
shallow expectations
Section 7,
of
the
others.
dance of light
As
and
you
shadow
grow, as you
Redwood
climb,
National
as you
Park.
refine yourself
California's
through
Redwood
solitude and
National
strength,
Park is
you
home
will
to the
naturally
tallest trees
outgrow
on
certain
Earth.
circles.
These ancient
You will feel
giants
the
have
space
stood the
widen
test of
between
time,
you and people
witnessing
you once called
centuries of
friends.
history
You will
unfold
find
beneath
yourself
their
speaking
towering
less
canopies.
because your words now
The park
carry more
itself
weight,
is a
more
sanctuary,
depth,
preserving
more
not
truth,
just the trees,
and not
but an
everyone can
entire
handle that.
ecosystem that
You will
thrives
notice
in
how
their
surface
shadow.
conversations
Giant
exhaust
redwoods,
you,
some
how
over
empty
2,000
validation no
years
longer
old,
excites
reach
you,
for the sky,
how fitting
their
in
massive
feels more
trunks
like
disappearing
suffocating
into
than
the canopy
belonging.
above.
That's not
These
arrogance,
trees have survived
that's
through
evolution.
countless seasons,
And not everyone is
fires
meant
and
to come with
storms,
you.
standing
Small
resilient
minds will
and strong.
misinterpret your
Their bark,
seriousness
thick
as
and
bitterness.
fibrous, protects
They will
them from the
confuse your
elements,
focus for
allowing them
arrogance.
to grow to
They
such
will mistake
incredible
your
heights.
unwillingness to settle
Walking
for
amongst
selfishness.
these ancient
But
giants
you know
is a
the
humbling
truth.
experience.
You know how many silent
The sheer
battles you
size
fought
and
just to
age of the
become this
redwoods
version
make
of
one feel
yourself.
small
You know
and
the price you paid to
insignificant in
build a
comparison.
mind that doesn't collapse
As you wander
at the
through
first
the
sign of
forest, the
loneliness.
sounds of modern
You know
life
the hours
fade
spent
away,
in
replaced by the
isolation,
rustling
choosing
of the
discipline
leaves and
over
the occasional
distraction,
call of a
truth
bird.
over comfort.
Sunlight
You don't owe
filters
anyone
through
an
the leaves,
explanation for the strength you
creating a
had to forge in
mesmerizing
private.
dance of light
Keep
and
walking.
shadow.
Keep
This
climbing.
interplay of light
Keep moving
and
with the
dark
same
adds a
steady,
magical
grounded steps
quality
that
to the
got you
forest,
this
making it
far.
feel like a scene
Not
from
everyone
fairy
deserves a front row seat
light
to your
shifts
journey.
and changes
Not
as the
everyone
day
is qualified
progresses,
to have access
casting
to the next
different
chapters of your life.
patterns and highlighting different
Access to
aspects
you
of the
should be
forest.
earned by
The
character,
air is
not
cool,
familiarity.
damp, carrying the
Loyalty
scent
to
of
your
pine
old self
needles
is not a
and
good
damp
enough
earth.
reason to
This
stay
unique
tethered to people who
aroma is a
refuse to
blend of
grow.
the forest's
You are
natural
allowed to
elements,
outgrow those
creating
who
an
choose to
atmosphere
stay
that is both
small.
refreshing
And when they
invigorating.
criticize, when they
The
gossip,
mist
when
that
they
often
say you've
hangs in the
changed,
air
smile.
adds to the sense
Let
of
them
mystery
talk.
and wonder,
Let them
making each
misunderstand.
visit to the
Let
park
them
a
stay
unique
stuck in the
experience.
places you refuse
In the
to die
presence
in.
of these
Because
majestic
while they are
trees,
busy
one
discussing
cannot
your
help but
life,
feel a
you are
sense
busy
of
building
awe
it.
and wonder.
While they
The
cling to
redwoods
old versions
inspire
of
a
you,
deep
you are
respect for
stepping into
nature
new
and its
dimensions
ability
they
to
can't
endure
even
and
imagine.
thrive.
You
Whether
are
you're
not
a
cold, you
seasoned
are
hiker
clear.
or a
You are
first-time
not distant,
visitor,
you are
the
discerning.
experience
You are
of
not
standing
too
among
serious,
these
you are too
giants
committed
is
to
one that
waste your
stays
energy
with
on
you
what
long
doesn't
after
serve
you've
your
left the
purpose.
park.
Big dreams
Section
require
8,
a big spirit.
finding peace
And
in
big
open
spirits will
spaces.
always feel
The
too
Great
heavy for
Plains.
small minds.
The Great Plains
So
of North
protect your
America
energy,
are a vast
guard
expanse
your
of
peace,
open grassland
and never
stretching for
apologize for
miles
growing in a
every
direction that
The
demands
wind
more from
sweeps
you,
across the prairie,
even if it means
creating
growing alone
waves
for a
of golden
season.
grass
You're
that
not here
ripple
to
like
be
an
understood by everyone.
Herds of
You're here to
bison
live a
graze
life that
peacefully,
only a
their
rare few
silhouettes
will even
outlined against the
recognize,
endless
and
sky.
even fewer
The
will ever
simplicity and
reach.
vastness of the
And that's
landscape
exactly
evoke
how
a
it should
sense
be.
of freedom and
The
peace.
power of walking
In the
alone.
quiet solitude
There is a
of the
kind
Great
of power
Plains,
that comes
one can
from knowing
truly
you can
connect
walk
with the
alone.
rhythm of
A
nature.
quiet, invisible
Section 9,
power that
a world
doesn't
of wonder
announce
awaits.
itself, doesn't
Our
seek
planet is
approval,
filled with hidden
doesn't
green
need a stage to
paradises,
feel
each
real.
one a
It
testament to
doesn't
the
mean you
incredible
always will walk
diversity and
alone.
beauty of our
It doesn't
natural
mean you
world.
reject people
These
or
places,
relationships
often
or
untouched by
connection.
human hands,
It simply
offer a
means you are not
sanctuary for
afraid of
countless
solitude.
species of
It
flora
means
and
that
fauna.
when the
They
crowds
are the
thin,
lungs
when the friends
of our
fade,
planet,
when
the
the path
sources of our
narrows to
rivers,
the
and
point
the
where only your
keepers of
footsteps
ancient
echo back
secrets.
at you, you
Each
don't
of these
crumble.
paradises
You don't
offers a
panic.
unique glimpse
You
into the
don't
beauty
desperately
and
reach out for
tranquility of
any
the
hand
natural
just to feel less alone.
Imagine standing in a serene forest where the only sounds are the rustling of leaves,
you trust your own
and
heart,
the distant call
you
of a
trust
bird.
the life you're building,
Or picture
even when no
yourself
one
by a
else can
crystal
see it
clear
yet.
lake.
When you
Its
can walk
surface so
alone,
still
it
it
changes
mirrors the
everything.
sky above.
It means that when you
From the
choose
rugged
to walk
mountains
beside
of
someone,
Scotland,
whether in
where
friendship, in
ancient
partnership,
peaks rise
in love, it's from a
majestically
place of
against the
strength,
sky,
not
to
fear.
the rolling
You are
hills
not
and
clinging
deep
because
valleys
you're
that tell
terrified of
stories
being
of
alone.
geological time,
You are not begging
to the
because you
tranquil
think you need
islands of
someone
the
else to
Maldives,
complete you.
where
You are
turquoise
not shrinking
waters
yourself
lap
just to
gently
fit into a
against
life
white
that doesn't
sandy
align with
shores,
who
and
you are.
vibrant coral
You are
reefs.
choosing freely,
The forest
powerfully,
floor is dark
consciously.
and mysterious. mysterious.
You are saying, I can stand on my own. I am whole on my own. But I choose to share this path with you because I want to, not because I have to. And that difference changes the entire dynamic.
It is a place where the cycle of life and death plays out in a delicate
from desperation to freedom.
The Amazon is
There's
a place
kind of
wonder.
peace that settles over you once you realize you don't need anyone to validate your steps. You don't need constant reassurance to trust your direction. You don't need to be carried when the road gets rough, because you've already learned how to carry yourself through darker valleys than this. You stop chasing people who don't value you. You stop bending to stay invited. You stop molding yourself into versions that others find easier to digest. Instead, you become rooted deeply, unshakably in who you are, in what you believe, and in where you're going. You start recognizing that anyone who walks beside you is a blessing, not a necessity, a choice, not a crutch. And the beautiful thing about walking alone is that it sharpens your vision. It clears the fog of distraction. It tunes your heart to a frequency that cannot be faked. You begin to see clearly who deserves to be in your life and who is only there to fill a void you no longer have. You no longer accept half-hearted efforts. You no longer tolerate lukewarm loyalty. You no longer waste your energy trying to convince people of your worth. You've already convinced the only person who matters,
Farmers work hard in the fields.
Walking alone builds something inside you that cannot be
The rice terraces are beautiful. They show how humans and nature can work together. These terraces are special. They are part of Bali's
having to
culture.
say a word.
Section 7.
They feel
Canadian
the steadiness
Rockies,
when you
majesty in
speak.
green.
They feel
The
the
Canadian
certainty
Rockies
when you
are
move.
mountains.
They feel the
They are
freedom in the
tall
way
and
you love
majestic.
freely without
Forests
fear,
cover the
without
lower
chains.
slopes. They are
Because
a deep
nothing
green
is more
color.
attractive,
The air is
nothing
clear
is
and
more
fresh.
magnetic
Rivers
than a
flow
soul
through the
that is
valleys.
whole all by itself.
Waterfalls cascade
So
down
if you
the
find yourself
mountainsides.
walking
The scenery
alone
is
right now,
breathtaking.
keep going.
The Canadian Rockies
If you
are
find
wild.
yourself in
Bears and
seasons
wolves
where no
live
one
here.
seems to
Eagles
understand
soar
your
overhead.
journey,
These
trust it
mountains
even
are
more.
powerful.
The
They
world
remind
trains
us of
us to
nature's
fear
grandeur.
solitude, to fear the
Section
empty
8.
spaces.
Finding serenity
But the
in
empty
green
spaces are where you find
Green
the parts of
spaces are
yourself that are
important.
strongest,
They offer a
most
sanctuary
resilient,
from the
most
hustle and
beautifully
bustle of
unbreakable.
daily life,
And when
providing
the
a
time
place
comes to
where
walk
we
with
can
someone else
reconnect
again,
with nature
you won't
and
do it out of
ourselves.
need.
In today's
do it out of
fast-paced
abundance,
world, finding
out of
moments of
strength,
tranquility
out
is
of a love
essential
that
for our
doesn't
mental
ask for
peaceful. The
completion,
vibrant
only
colors of
companionship.
flowers, the gentle
Because the
rustling
ones
of
who have
leaves,
mastered
and the
walking
soothing
alone
sounds of
are the
nature
ones who
all
walk
contribute to
together,
a sense of peace
stronger.
and serenity.
Your legacy
These natural
begins
elements
now.
work together
Every
to
day you
create an
walk alone with
environment
dignity.
that promotes
You are building a
relaxation and mind.
legacy,
The melodious
even if it
tunes
feels
of birds
invisible
can
right
be
now.
incredibly
Every
uplifting.
time you choose self-respect
Bird
over
watching in a
easy
park allows us
validation,
to
every time you
appreciate
honor
the
your soul's
diversity
call
of
over the noise of
wildlife
the
and
world,
fosters a
every
deep
time you choose
connection with the
solitude over
natural
shallow
world.
company,
These
you are
moments of
leaving
connection can be
footprints.
profoundly healing.
Footprints that
We
don't
can feel
just
the
mark
wind
where
on
you've
our
been, they
faces.
light the way
The
for
gentle
those who will
breeze
come
that
after
caresses
you.
our skin
You
as
are
we
showing
stand in a
future
meadow or walk
generations
through
what
a
it looks
park
like to
is
stand
a
tall
reminder
without
of the
needing a
simple
crowd to
pleasures of
lean
life.
on.
The
You are
rustling of
teaching
leaves
without
in the wind
speaking,
creates
leading
a
without
natural
demanding,
symphony that
inspiring
soothes
without
our souls.
performing.
We can
You are
breathe in the
proving,
fresh air.
quietly but
The crisp,
undeniably,
clean
that a
air of
woman's
green
value
spaces
is not
is
measured by the
invigorating.
number of people she
Taking
can
a deep
gather
breath
around
in a
her,
forest
but
or a
by the
mountain
depth,
setting
the discipline,
fills our
the
lungs with
unshakable
oxygen
strength
and
she builds
revitalizes
within
our
herself.
bodies.
And make no
fresh
mistake,
air is
the
a
world
stark
watches,
contrast to the
even
often
when it
polluted
pretends
air
not
of
to.
urban environments.
The young girl who
Parks
feels
and
out of
gardens
place
are
because she
important. They
refuses to
serve as
water
green
herself
oases
down.
in the midst
She's
of
watching
concrete
you.
jungles.
The woman who's
These
been told
spaces
she's
provide
too
a
much,
much-needed
too
escape
serious,
from the
too
urban
ambitious.
chaos and offer
She's
a place
watching
for
you.
people to unwind
The souls
and
who are
recharge.
quietly aching for
Well-maintained
permission to live
gardens and
fully, to
parks
stand
enhance the
firmly,
beauty of our
to walk
cities and
bravely
improve
without
the quality
apology.
of life
They are
for
all
residents.
watching.
They bring
They may
nature
not
into
say it
our
out
cities.
loud, but
Urban
your
parks
courage
and
grants them
gardens
silent
integrate
permission
nature
to
into our
rise.
daily lives,
Your example
making it
whispers to
accessible
them
to
that it's
everyone.
not only
These
possible
green
to live
spaces are
without
essential
shrinking, it's
for fostering
necessary.
a sense of
Stay
community
strong,
and encouraging
stay
outdoor
silent,
activities.
stay
They
sacred.
remind us of the
In a
impulses.
world that rewards
Green fields
loud
are precious.
mediocrity,
We must
your
protect
quiet
them.
excellence
These
is
green
an act of
expanses are
rebellion.
not just beautiful
In a
to look
culture
at.
that
They are
glorifies
vital for our
fitting in,
survival.
your refusal
They
to
act
bend
as the
is
lungs of our
revolutionary.
planet,
Choosing
absorbing
your
carbon
soul over
dioxide
your
and
popularity,
releasing oxygen.
your growth over your
Without them,
comfort,
the air
your
we
standards
breathe will
over
be
your
polluted
loneliness.
and
These are
unhealthy.
not small
The
decisions.
lush meadows and
They are the
expansive
building blocks of an
grasslands are also
unshakable
crucial
legacy,
for maintaining the
one
balance
that
of
will
our
outlive the
ecosystems.
trends, the gossip,
They provide
the fleeting
habitats for
opinions of
countless
those
species
too
of
afraid
plants
to
and
walk
animals,
their own
many of
path.
which are endangered.
Because
and
a woman
rely
who
on these
masters
areas for their
solitude is a
survival.
woman who masters
They are
everything.
home to many creatures.
She is untouchable
From
in
the
her
tiniest
peace.
insect
She is
to the largest
unstoppable in her
mammals,
pursuit.
these green
She is
paradises
unmatched in her
support a diverse
authenticity.
range of life
She doesn't
forms.
walk into
Birds
rooms hoping
build
to be
their
chosen.
nests
She
in the
walks in
trees.
already chosen by
Insects
herself.
pollinate the
She
flowers,
doesn't
and
shrink to
mammals
be
find
palatable. she stands in her full magnitude, whether it intimidates others or not. She doesn't cling to connections out of fear. She builds them from overflow, from truth, from wholeness. Every strong boundary you set, every high standard you maintain, every lonely night you endure with grace instead of desperation, they are not just about you. They are stitches in a much larger tapestry. They are threads in a story that says, a woman's worth was never meant to be negotiated. A woman's soul was never meant to be bartered for belonging. A woman's power was never supposed to be dependent on anyone's
However,
permission.
pollution from industrial
Your legacy is not something you stumble into one day. It's something you are shaping right now with every choice to rise instead of fall, to walk instead of cling, to stand instead of beg. Keep going. Because one day, when another woman faces her own wilderness and feels like she can't keep walking, she'll find your footprints. And because of you, she will.